This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Shelby Varner with the K-State Radio Network. Starting today's show is K-State weed specialist Sarah Lancaster as she highlights changes to this year's chemical weed control guide and what it provides to growers. LaVell Winsor, K-State farm analyst, and Robin Reid, K-State Extension farm economist, continue the show discussing the finances and the farm online class. K-State dairy specialist Mike Brouk ends the show saying this is a good time for dairy producers to assess their available forages and determine their planting and purchasing decisions for 2026. That and more is coming up ahead on Agriculture Today. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we start our Tuesday show discussing K-State's 2026 Chemical Weed Control Guide with K-State weed specialist Sarah Lancaster. Sarah, thanks for joining us today.
Always a pleasure, Shelby.
Sarah, this is a long-standing chemical weed control guide, but can you explain to us real fast, what is it?
So this book gives users kind of a quick summary of herbicides that are labeled for use in Kansas row crops and pastures. And it also provides some efficacy ratings. So if you're curious how a particular herbicide kind of stacks up against some troublesome weeds, you can find that information in there as well.
Is there anything new that's been added for this year?
So we did add 10 new products to the weed guide this year. Unfortunately, only one of them represents a new active ingredient to the row crop market. So we'll start off talking about that one, if that sounds good. The first one we should talk about is Entrava DX. It's a herbicide that was developed by UPL. It is a combination of metribuzin. So folks might know metribuzin better as Sencor. So it's a combination of Sencor and a herbicide called amicarbazone. And our listeners probably don't have any prior experience with amicarbazone. It's got some markets in some non-crop situations, but nothing in the row crop market. So Entrava DX is a herbicide that is only used in corn and only used ahead of planting. So folks are looking to mix up their corn herbicide programs before planting. Entrava DX is something that they could consider. Corteva is bringing us a couple of new products this year. One is Sonic Boom. And this is a new product for Corteva, but it is pretty much the same thing as Preview, which is a UPL product, or Authority MTZ, which is obviously an FMC product. So Sonic Boom is a premix, again, of metribuzin and sulfentrazone, which our listeners probably know as Spartan. So excellent activity on, pigweeds, but also some potential for some crop injury there, especially in kind of high pH or low organic matter soils. The next Corteva product is Kyber Pro. And really, this is just a reformulation of Kyber. It's still a premix of flumioxazin or Valor, metribuzin again, and pyroxasulfone or Zidua. Okay, so it's the same thing as Fierce MTZ, that premix of Valor plus Zidua plus Sencor. Okay, and so it's got the same use patterns as the old Kyber formulation and as Fierce MTZ. One last Corteva product to talk about, it's a range and pasture product. It's called Novagraze. It's a combination of 2,4-D and another group 4 herbicides, so that it will cause the same kind of twisting and misshapen leaf symptomology as 2,4-D. But the product or the active ingredient is called fluorpyroxafen. So a Novagraze range and pasture product, it can be used in the year of establishment. So if folks are looking for a new product for weed management in their pastures, Novagraze is an option. The next 2 products that we added to the weed guide are a couple of New Farm products based on, again, 2,4-D. And what New Farm has done is they've taken Weedar and they've changed the formulation and they're calling it Weedar XHL. So it's still 2,4-D. It's just two different kinds of 2,4-D, two different salts. Okay. So most of the 2,4-D amine products that we talk about are DMA salts of 2,4-D. Weedar XHL has the DMA salt plus the MMA salt. So that MMA salt, Shelby, allows the formulation to have a higher concentration of 2,4-D. So use rates are just a little bit lower. It seems like it has a little bit better stability on the shelf. Probably going to play a little nicer in mixing situations if you want to use some nitrogen fertilizer, things of that nature. So same 2,4-D, just a little bit different formulation. And then the other new farm product is Weed Master XHL. And so that's those two 2,4-D salts plus dicamba. So same story. Still 2,4-D, still dicamba, but because of the different formulation, they can put a little bit higher loading of the active ingredient in there. So that's the new stuff. The other product we changed in the weed guide this year is Liberty Ultra. Liberty Ultra is sort of a purified form of the old Liberty 280 formulations. Okay, so it's got a higher concentration of the active version of the glufosinate molecule in there. And so one of the things that they've done with this label for 2026 is actually increased the maximum application rate. So when Liberty Ultra came out last year, the maximum rate was 29 fluid ounces per acre. And in 2026, the maximum rate per application is 34 fluid ounces to the acre. And then just a friendly reminder that the Liberty Ultra label is the only label we have on the market right now that has those extra kind of drift and runoff mitigation requirements that make that label compliant with the EPA's herbicide strategy, which will help the EPA stay compliant with the Endangered Species Act.
Will there potentially be more information added to this guide in the coming months?
So one of the things that we would like to do this year, Shelby, because we know there are some products that our growers are waiting on, namely the over-the-top dicamba formulations, we are planning an update to the online version of the guide, kind of mid-March timeframe is what we're thinking. Just to let the listeners know, we basically put the guide together in October, which is a long time before we head to the field, right? And so things can shift a little bit from the time we publish the guide until the time we are using these products. So we would like to take advantage of the fact that we have an online version of the guide and go ahead and update that. So, folks can pick up a hard copy here in January from their local extension office. That hard copy is great to have around. But also, if they want, they can download a copy of the weed guide, and then we will keep that updated as we get information here moving into the growing season.
Sarah, as you work on this guide, what's your favorite part or part you find most interesting?
Well, it's always good to see, new products actually coming to market. I guess in some ways that's kind of the best and the worst, right? Because we get to see these products. My team sees these products usually a couple, maybe 3 years ahead of those products coming to market, right? So our role and our interactions with the companies is to kind of help fine tune local recommendations for use, right? Fine tuning rates, fine tuning adjuvants, tank mix partners, things like that. So we see them for a couple years. So it's always fun to see that label actually come out and be something that is available for farmers to use. On the flip side, there's a handful of products that we've been watching now for at least 3 years that, we're just waiting on kind of the gears to grind in the regulatory process, so we can get some of these new products out. So yeah, that's probably the highlight and the biggest frustration as well, Shelby.
What's your recommendation for the best way for growers and farmers to be able to utilize the guide?
So I keep a copy at my desk at the office, at my desk at the house, in my pickup truck to pick it up. And really, it's kind of a shortcut to some of the label information, right? So if you want to know, like, what is the crop rotation restriction? Do I need an adjuvant with that? It's one place to look that up for the overwhelming majority of the herbicides that we use in our Kansas system. So, I'll say 99.5% of our herbicides are listed in there. The other way that I think it's useful for folks is to look at the efficacy charts, right? We talk so much about killing pigweeds, right? There are other weeds out there. So if you need to kind of remember or look up, what herbicides work on the ragweeds or on some grasses, you can find that information in there as well, in a pretty convenient format.
Can you remind us the best way to find the chemical weed control guide?
So my favorite way for folks to find the chemical weed control guide is to visit their local extension agent or come to some of our programming this winter. We've been passing them out at events already. So that's one way. The other way is to look it up online. So you can go to the K-State bookstore and just look for chemical weed control. You can Google K-State chemical weed control guide, or there is a shortened website. It's ksre-learn.com/chem weed guide. So a couple ways that folks can get a hold of it.
Sarah, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me, Shelby.
That was K-State weed specialist Sarah Lancaster. If you'd like to find this year's chemical weed control guide, I will link it in today's show notes on agtoday.net, or you can also go to K-State Extension's bookstore website, which is bookstore.ksre.ksu.edu. We're cutting to a short break now on Agriculture Today, but when we come back, we'll be joined by K-State's LaVell Winsor and Robin Reid as they discuss an online class opportunity. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we continue our show discussing the finances and the farm online class with K-State Extension farm economist Robin Reid and K-State farm analyst LaVell Winsor. Robin, LaVell, I appreciate you both taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Shelby.
Thanks for having us, Shelby.
Robin, what is this finances and the farm class?
So we actually started this class back in 2020, so really months before COVID hit. We had a series specifically for women in agriculture where we had 26 different in-person sites that people could come to, and we did 4 different sessions. And really, if you think about the timing of that in 2020, we did not have a very good financial situation in agriculture. So our goal of that program was to learn about record keeping, balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow. And we did that again at 32 locations across the state. And we had 685 participants that signed up and took our class that year. And then COVID hit, obviously, and we turned that into an online class. So this class has been going since then, online only. It's really been a very popular class, especially in this new opportunity to take it online and at your own pace, that anybody can sign up and take the class, but really focusing on good record keeping and then using those records to make financial statements and better management decisions.
And as you saw that transition to online, how many people have used this online class for either education or farm service agency credits?
I mentioned we had 685 people take it that first year in person. So since it's been online since in the last 5 years, we've had a total of 365 people register and take the class. And as you mentioned, there are 2 versions. 254 people have taken it just for education only. It's $100 to take that online class from K-State here. Another 111 have taken it for FSA borrowers training credit. So if you get a loan through the Farm Service Agency or you anticipate getting a loan there, you can take this class and already take care of those borrower training credits you need. Basically, what that is making sure that you have the educational background to manage a successful farm and getting through those financial credits. So again, it's the same class, 2 different versions, whether you just want to learn about the farm financial aspects or you need those borrower training credits.
And wanting to touch on those credits just real fast once again, what states are they qualified for?
We have had that in Kansas for several years now, and then we also have it available in the 10 surrounding states around Kansas too.
What are the 7 lessons that people will get to engage with?
Yeah, so we start out with record keeping because that's where everything begins. We really encourage farm families to have good records of their finances. And then we go into balance sheets, income statements, enterprise budgets, cash flow, goal setting, and then managing those family living expenses. And so ultimately, a lot of people will do a balance sheet for their banker. That's usually a requirement if you have borrow from a bank. But we really want people to extend beyond that balance sheet and also look at these other documents as well and use those to start making better business decisions on their own farm. Use their own numbers. Don't just rely on what other people are saying. Oh, you should be in this. Look at those numbers yourself, create your own business, and then make better decisions such as forward marketing and so forth.
As someone is maybe choosing to go through this online class, are they able to choose a farm case that is closer to what their operation is doing?
Yeah, that's one of the beauties of how we design this class is we recognize no agricultural business is the same as the next one. So we wanted to give at least a couple opportunities so when participants are taking the class, they can relate a bit to the examples. So we have one case farm that is a cow-calf and a row crop operation. And then we have a second one that is more of a farmer's market, CSA, kind of vegetable, egg production kind of farm. So when you're going through the class, you can pick one of those case farms to do your reviews and your quizzes with. Hopefully, the other goal is as you're taking that quiz to make sure you understand the content, but also understand how you can apply that to your own farm. And each lesson that we do, we really focus on, it's short videos to learn the content. There's some interactive reviews and activities to kind of play with the content and apply it. And then that quiz to kind of check your knowledge. And then you go on to the next lesson. So it's a really good progression of learning something and applying it. And then we also give resources of how you can take that and let's say put together a balance sheet for your own farm. So we provide a structure in a spreadsheet or a handwritten form that you can go ahead and do that on your own farm.
As this is a self-paced course, do participants have to do all 7 lessons at once, or can they really spread it out? What's your recommendation?
The participants can spread it out. They have 6 months to do the entire course from the time that they start. What I really encourage people to do is to do 1, possibly 2 modules a week. People can go through the material faster, but the beauty of this course is then implementing that for your own farm. So for example, when you complete the balance sheet module, then create your own balance sheet, you're going to see some things in our class that you maybe haven't heard from your banker before, or you maybe haven't put into your balance sheet before. So then we want you to incorporate even more things into those financial statements so that they can continually become better and better tools that you can use to manage your own business.
Have you seen this class also be used as a tool or an opportunity to help generations maybe transition an operation or help teach the next generation?
As a farm analyst, I work a lot one-on-one with farm families, and there's an exercise that I often go through with farm families. It's who's in charge. And so it's kind of identifying all of the tasks that are on a farm that need to be done. And is the older generation doing that, or has that competency been passed down to the younger generation? And there are so many things that our younger producers can do. A lot of them know how to do the workload. A lot of them may even be ordering inputs and things like that and making some of those decisions. But often the things that haven't been passed along yet, a lot of times it's records, it might be crop insurance, it might be working with the banker, but record keeping and doing those financial documents have not yet been passed on to the younger generation. So one thing that I think is beautiful about this class is to do this class together. The older generation, the younger generation, help the younger generation to understand how these records are kept. And, honestly, there may even be some great ideas that the younger generation may see some things that are maybe a little bit clunky or, maybe some improvements that could be made and maybe together take that to the next step. If not even that, though, It's really important that another person in the operation really understand the record keeping, because we just don't know at some point, maybe the older generation may not be able to do that anymore. And we need to be able to have that streamlined so that the younger generation can take over those at any time and be knowledgeable so that they can understand what the decisions that they're making, how is that actually impacting the bottom line? Critically important, especially in the difficult environment that we're in right now.
Robin, how have you seen this class be beneficial?
Yeah, so we've had a number of people take the class, obviously, as I talked about earlier, but I think too, there's just a lot of different ways this class can be used. As LaVell talked about, this is a great class for young people that maybe have gone to college and have a college education, have taken some farm management classes while they were there, but now they're back at the farm and maybe need a refresher on how do I do a balance sheet or an income statement or an enterprise budget. So I'd say it's a good review for somebody that has been through a college degree, but also I would say for those that haven't, that have been farming and ranching for quite a while. And as we're seeing these lower crop prices, it's putting very tight margins into profitability. It might be a good time to just refresh yourself on what we can do with those farm records as far as making financial statements and then what they tell us and maybe how we can make some changes on the farm to withstand this lower profitability environment. So there's a lot of different people that could benefit from this class. And we've seen that throughout the years. I have a number of people that have taken the class that have reached back out to me and told me how they applied the principles that we were teaching. And it's been really neat to see that.
Is there anything else people get from this class?
Well, one exciting thing that we got last year, it's actually approved for a K-State micro-credential now. So if you take the class, successfully complete it with the test at the end, you will get a K-State micro-credential badge that you have to completed this class.
What is the cost for people wanting to do this class?
So if people want to take the class for education only, it's $100. And if they take it for the FSA borrower training, it's $300. We have some more requirements that we have to do, so that accounts for that additional cost. But either way, very reasonable for the amount of information and hopefully what they can take back to their farm operation.
Where can people find this class?
You want to go to the Ag Manager website, so www.agmanager.info, and go to the events tab, and you will see the finances and the farm course listed there. Select that, and you can register from there.
LaVell, Robin, I appreciate you both taking the time to join us today.
Thank you, Shelby.
Thanks for having us.
That was K-State Extension Farm Economist Robin Reid and K-State Farm Analyst LaVell Winsor. I will link this class in today's show notes on agtoday.net. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Agriculture Today. Along with Shelby Varner, I'm Jeff Wickman. We end today's program with this week's milk lines. K-State dairy specialist Mike Brouk says that now is a good time for dairy farmers to assess available forages and determine their planting and purchasing decisions for 2026.
Today I want to visit with our Kansas dairy producers concerning forage supplies as we head into the spring and the start of summer. As we look at your forage supplies today and around the first of the year is always a good time to kind of take inventory where you're at and look to see what you might need to do between now and the time we start to see new forages become available in the spring. As we look at the supply of hay across the state and actually in the Midwest, we see ample supplies of hay available. So if you do check your inventories and determine that you maybe be a little bit short on supply, there should be some available for purchase. And with the supply that's out there, the prices are at least more reasonable than they maybe were a couple years ago and maybe even last year. So you might even be able to find some bargains as you look forward into the 2026 feeding season. So as you look at your supplies, might want to be thinking about some things that you might do differently with your forages in 2026. As you look at that supply of corn silage out there, how many months do you actually have left? Are you going to make it just to corn silage harvest, or do you have a few months in reserve? to allow that crop to ferment a little bit before we actually have to start feeding it. When we think about corn silage, it's usually good to allow at least 90 days of fermentation. So if you normally chop around the 1st of August, then that means your current corn silage supply should carry you until sometime around the 1st of December, maybe even onward to the 1st of the year. So for a little bit short of that, you might want to consider how much corn that you need to plant in the coming year in order to ensure that we can stretch that supply a little bit further next year. Also, as we think about alternate forages that we might grow, if you're really short and not going to make it to corn silage harvest, it might be important to consider planting something like spring oats that we could harvest for forage to stretch that corn silage supply into the end of the summer and to the point where we might have new corn silage available for our feeding program. Seems as I work with dairy producers, one of the issues that we have in production is if we run out of corn silage late in the summer, it's usually not a very positive thing in terms of our overall milk production that we're shipping off of our farms, as the loss of corn silage from the diet generally causes a reduction in milk supply. That, coupled with heat stress, generally is something that can cause some significant cash flow problems for us if we do not have enough corn silage to actually carry us into the next silage season. This is Mike Brouk with K-State Research and Extension, encouraging our dairy producers to take time to assess available forages and make purchasing or planting decisions accordingly.
Thanks, Mike. And while we have a moment, this reminder, the 2026 K-State Agronomy Science and Solutions Conference, Research to Results, a 2-day virtual program designed to connect the latest K-State agronomy research with on-farm decisions, is February 3rd and 4th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time via Zoom. Each day will feature 4 30-minute presentations from K-State specialists and collaborators focused on practical strategies for crop production in Kansas. Some of the planned topics include perennial weed management, strategic tillage, turning farm data into decisions, and fertility management when crop prices are low. Participants can register for one or both days. The cost is $20 per day or $30 for both days. More information, including the full program schedule, speaker list, and registration link, is available in the Agronomy e-update and on all K-State Agronomy communication channels. And that'll do it for this edition of Agriculture Today. For Shelby Varner, I'm Jeff Wickman. This is the K-State Radio Network.